Welcome, sadkhas. I am fully conscious that many of us are not exposed to the reality of spatial order for space. I am fully alive to the fact that a mental state which is not exposed to the reality of spatial order for space and which stands conditioned because of the linear order logic of three space is bound to give intellectual repulsions for crossing the barrier. However, as we are anxious, we have a urge, we are fully intensified urge fulfilled sadhkas, our urge being to be parallel with Vedic systems, and as every system is to be approached the system way, and the Vedic system being the system of a spatial order creates the space. Therefore, we have to be sadhkas of a approach. We have to sequentially melt our mental state because of the linear logic. We have to have a mental state of a spatial order. As such, the present session is being specifically devoted and is being specifically concentrating only upon a single specific illustration of Ganita Sutra 1. The features being tabulated here in this illustrative setup of the illustration, we are putting to ourselves that the previous state is of three space value. Ekadike will take us to four space. Three space means three space content, and four space would mean four space content. As such, the working rule of Ganita Sutra 1 together with Ganita Upsutra 1 permitting repeated application of the rule of Ganita Sutra 1 will that way take us from the previous value of three space as three space content to four space as four space content. A step ahead, three space content manifesting as hypercube 3 will take us to four space content manifesting as hypercube 4. This way will take us to the setup of a cube as three space domain enveloped within spatial boundary of 6 components to hypercube 4 as four space domain enveloped within a solid boundary of 8 components. Cube is a 12-edged setup. It is a 12-edged body. It is a 12-edged cube. So it will take us to, under the rule of Ekadikane, to a setup of a 13-edged cube. One may have a pause here and take note that our well-known three-space regular body, namely cube, being a setup of 12 edges, when will be transiting and entering within four space, same will be acquiring one additional edge along its degree of freedom of motion towards the fourth additional dimension available in four space. Three space is having a frame of triple dimensions. Four space is having a frame of quadruple dimensions. So the previous state of a dimensional frame of triple dimensions under the rule will take us to the dimensional frame of quadruple dimensions. The availability of one additional dimension, that is the fourth dimension, for three space bodies will naturally provide a degree of freedom of motion for the solids for three space bodies. This degree of freedom of motion will that way manifest one additional edge for 12-edged cube. This manifestation of additional edge along the fourth dimension of four space is going to be the feature, is going to be the attainment, is going to be the transition, it is going to be the transformation. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the mind to fully glimpse and to completely imbibe this happening under the rule of Ganita Sutra 1. Our 12-edged cube under the rule transforms into a setup of 13-edged setup cube. So hypercube of 13 edges is the transformation under the rule. Our 12-edged cube is a three-space body. In four space, it is going to be of 13-edged setup. Now see, the three space is having one space in the role of dimension. Under the rule, four space will have two space in the role of a dimension. Therefore, the fourth additional dimension available for the motion, degree of freedom of motion for solid is going to be a two space, is a spatial axis. Therefore, the pair of axes of the spatial axis that way create a two-phased state. The first state is going to be of 13th edge being a linear edge. However, the spatial order of the fourth dimension will also sequentially have the spatial format for the 13th edge. This would amount to a transition and transformation for the previous state Purvain of 13-edged cube with 13th edge of linear format into a cube of 14 edges, a cube where the pair of axes will manifest distinctively 13-edged cubes along each of its axes. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to glimpse and imbibe these features of this specific illustration. Now, as in the previous session, our focus, our focused attention had been upon Shaloka 3 of Karam Yoga. Today, it is being pointed as that now we shall have a focused attention upon Shloka 10 of Karma Yoga. Shloka 10 text of Karma Yoga is on the computer screen. It reads as Sah Yagya Parja Srishtha Provach Parjapati Anen Parsvish Dhamesh O Astvisht Kam Dhuk. This text deserves to be comprehended well. beginning with text of shloka 3 and reaching up till the text of shloka 10 is going to be a very, very big exercise. It is going to be a very big challenge for the mental state of us who are still not fully exposed to the spatial order of the creator's space within which this speaking language mathematics is going to be as it stands composed at shlokas of Gita. Here in this text of Shloka 10, let us have pointed attention to the five formulations Yajna, Parja, Srishti, Pur, and Prajapati. These five word formulations are having TC values 13, 13, 18, 12, and 25. From this words formulations, we have to reach at numbers alphabet, and from numbers alphabet we have to reach at sthapatya. However, unless and until we are of the mental state of the spatial order of the creator's space, it may really remain a repulsive state for our intellect for to be parallel with it. Therefore, it is suggested that one shall adopt the meditation technique. The intellect is to get its direction, and same is going to be supplied only by the meditation. With these words, now let me proceed a step ahead for further initiative, further initiation help for each one of us. First table is of formulations of TC value 13. See, Yajna, Chit, Kram, Tithi, Kam, Pura, Parja, and Visarjaniya. All these 8 formulations are of same TC value 13. Therefore, we have to have a further information and this so that we can have a real distinctive deciphering for the distinctive features and values of these formulations. And for it, we have to reach at their geometric formats. The geometric formats of the TC values of formulations is going to be the same as the TC value is the same for all these 8 formulations. However, the internal organization of these formulations is going to be of different sequential setups, and therefore to have the imbibing of the distinctive features and values of these formulations, we have to concentrate upon, we have to chase, we have to follow, we have to be parallel with the internal organization of these word formulations. Before that, let us have a revisit upon value 13 formats. 3 popularly prominently available formats are of 13-edged cube and as well as of hypercube of half unit, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4, and then hypercube 6, the representative regular body of 6 space, is having 13 geometries. These 3 formats are going to be of great help for having distinctive imbibing with respect to the internal organizations of different word formulations of TC value 13. With this, we can have a further exposure to the synthesis of solid dimensions 1 to 7. On the computer screen is the tabulation where the row 1 is mentioning the number of solid dimensions and row 2 is depicting, is tabulating the synthesis value. The single solid dimension is of value 0. Sorry, the absence of dimensions always lead to the value 0. However, the single solid dimension will be yielding value 3, but the pair of solid dimensions will yield value 5. Then triple solid dimensions and quadruple solid dimensions both will be yielding synthesis value as 6. 5 solid dimensions are of synthesis value 5 and 6 solid dimensions are of value 3, while the 7 solid dimensions of our value 6. Below is figurative parabolic depiction of this range of synthesis values of solid dimensions 1 to 7. This is being mentioned here with a pointed focus as that we are trying to expose ourselves as to the fate of three space content lump, three space bodies within four space. Let me have a pause here. Let us have a pause here. Let us put to ourselves that the initiation point being focused here is that to be parallel with the spatial order mathematics of Vedic systems, we shall first of all have exposure to the setup of a linear order 3 space within a spatial order 4 space. For broad acceptance of initiation, we can take as if our body, like any other body, is a body of space content as a domain. And if we take it that it is a three space content domain, three space content lump, and when it transits and transforms from three space to four space, then what is going to be the formatal distinguishing features emerging in addition to all those which three space bodies are having in three space. Therefore, to have a proper sequential exposure for this, let us have a concentrative look at the 8 figures on the computer screen. The first figure is depicting cube 3 space body within hypercube of 4 as a 4 space setup enveloped within a solid boundary of 8 components. Figure 2 is focusing upon 3 space domain within 4 space domain. Figure 3 is pointing as to how 3 space body within 4 space domain with acquisition of the additional edge will transform from 12 edged setup to 13-edged setup, and it in a way can be taken as that the static state of three space body of three space is of a dynamic state in four space. However, because of the manifestation of the fourth dimension of four space as edge, additional edge of 12-edged cube, so it will be of a static state. Figure 4 depicts as that the fourth dimension here in respect of the three linear dimensions is going to be of a spatial order. Four space is a spatial order space. Each dimension of four space is having spatial axis. As such, the 13th edge manifests along spatial axis. As the spatial axis is having a pair of axes, therefore the manifestation here in first phase is going to be only along the first axis, while the second phase manifestation will be availing both the axes. As such, the setup of a cube, 12-edged cube within four space will be of dual phases manifestation, firstly as of 13-edged cube, and secondly as of 16 value format for the 13th edge. Figure 5 takes us further to the additional edge getting coordinated and linked up with the transcendental origin. As a result, the transcendental origin splits the creator's space, four space domain, and as a result, there emerges a split spectrum as depicted in figure 5 of a pair of four space content lumps and the five space content lump released because of the transcendental origin. And this makes a value 4 plus 4 plus 5 is equal to 13. This phenomenon of five space origin transiting out will amount to creation of a transcendental cavity at the seat of the transcendental origin. This creation of the transcendental cavity within four space will amount to transition and transformation for the role of four space as domain to four space as creative boundary of 10 components. Therefore, in this process, the mouth of the transcendental cavity as a well is going to be embanked as creative boundary of 10 components. This, as a result, amounts to that the transcendence of the transcendental origin because of the spatial order of the creator's the space will amount to that at first phase, because of the first axis, the transcendental domain will split as outer crust of a northern and southern hemispheres, and because of the second axis, it will amount to further transcendental cavity as a second fold within the transcendental cavity. Figures 7 and 8 deserve to be glimpsed together, deserve to be imbibed together to have proper exposure for the mind as to how the inner transition at the transcendental origin seat happens to be within creator's space. Further, in continuity, let us have revisit to a cube as a cube within a cube. Let us sit comfortably and permit the transcending mind to have distinctive absorption, imbibing of the features of the inner cube being distinct than that of the outer cube. The outer cube is a structural setup of zero space content, one space content, two space content, three space content, together with the four space content at origin. However, the inner cube is a setup of a three space content together with four space content as an origin. Step ahead, three space within two space would amount to three space playing the role of origin of a two space. Let me have a pause. Let us have a pause. Let us sit comfortably and let us permit our mind to have a repeated exposure for the quadruple phased depictions for the individual, firstly being within a cube and having a mental state as if the universe is a three space. At next step, let one come out of a cube, let one be out of a room, let one be in the outer space, and one will sequentially dissolve the mental state of the linear order of a cube and will soon acquire a mental state of a spatial order. Step ahead, as a third step, one will again have a manifestation and conditioning for the mental state as of a spatial order. However, to transit therefrom as well, we have to come out of a four space room, four space setup, and have a comprehension of a transcendental space. Let us permit our mind to have sequential melting of conditioning because of the boundary folds. We shall sequentially melt the conditioning because of a linear order as well as because of the spatial order. And once we will be of the transcendental mental setup, we will be having blissful absorbing of the values preserved as Karma Yoga, being parallel with the values of the Ganita Sutras. Thank you very much.